All right, we are here this week with Tom Kline, who many of you know as a risk and compliance guy in the industry, but also he is the author of Tuck the Octopus. Tom, welcome.
Thanks for having me, Dave. Always great to see you.
It is great to have you here, and love seeing the book in the back. And I enjoyed reading through it. I like the is that octopus bookends also that you have there.
Yes, it is. It was a gift by another podcaster after I explained the origin of Tuck the
Yep.
Octopus. So they sent me octopus bookends.
Excellent. That is good stuff. Um,
All things octopus. Octopus.
Absolutely. Yeah. Look at you. Are you going to have some extra arms added on to really?
I am so that I can be multitasking all the time.
There you go. I love it. So Tom, what's a specific moment or experience that compelled you to write this book? If you can narrow down one experience.
I don't know that it was necessarily a moment, but more a realization that nobody wants to comply, right, Dave? If you said to your are you married?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, okay, so if you said to your wife, "I want dinner by 6 and you'd better comply," how would that go over?
Pretty well.
Pretty great,
I'd
right?
be answering the "Are you married?" question differently.
That's right. And so keeping that in mind, nobody wants to comply, and I've kind of changed the paradigm of what compliance is, right? Because compliance really overall is someone has to do a thing, whatever the thing is, at some point in time and then prove it was done, right? That's all compliance is. And
Yep.
so when you think about being an adult, we're doing all kinds of compliance all day. And the specific thing that kind of motivated me to write the book was that I really wanted to try to present compliance in a more entertaining way, in a more digestible way,
Hmm.
and try to have dealers understand the importance of the topic and what can happen if you're not interested in doing it. I mean, let's face it, it's not the sexiest part of the business, right? Everybody would rather sell something or advertise something or do anything other than the compliance piece, but it's a critical piece of running a business, whether you're a car dealer or anything else.
Yeah, absolutely, and you have definitely succeeded in making it more entertaining. Um, that's for sure. And love the uh, the old pictures in the book to bring you back to some days past.
Right.
Um,
My family's actually been in the car business. Next year it'll be 100 years.
wow.
So I'm a third generation car guy, and so some of those photos were taken from our archives. So I enjoyed picking through them and finding the best ones.
Yeah, that is very cool. This segment is brought to you by Parts Edge. Your parts department is the backbone of your dealership and is responsible for nearly half of your total profits, according to NADA. Our system works within your DMS for a hybrid approach that combines the precision of automation with the nuanced decision making of parts experts. Tell us more about Tuck the Octopus. Where did Tuck come from?
Yeah. So Tuck the Octopus is an analogy that running a dealership is like trying to tuck an octopus into bed and the tentacles flop all over the place, right? That's what's running a dealership is like. Is trying to just keep things moving in the right direction. So that's where the impetus for the name of the book was. And I think, having been a dealer myself for 30 years, I felt that every day for what seemed like 210 years, since it felt like dog years. Or maybe I should say, maybe I should say 240 in octopus years, right? Since the
That's
time's
right.
eight, the time's seven.
Yeah, time does feel like it multiplies at times when you're inside the dealership, and that is a great analogy of what it's like trying to trying to wrangle in all the dealership operations throughout a month, especially when it is throughout a month, right? Where we live on that 30-day cycle. It's not like you can push stuff off 6 or 8 months. It's everything is on a ticking clock.
It comes at you fast.
Absolutely. So if there's one key takeaway from the book that you want readers to remember, what would that be?
I think I'd want them to just consider what I call the what ifs, right? What if you had a catastrophic problem of this nature or that nature? What if that happened? How would you respond to that? And are you prepared for it? And then how would you respond to it? And so I would encourage dealerships to go through their own operation and try to think about what they think the worst case scenario is. Now, their worst case scenario might not be what I think the worst case scenario is. Because oftentimes I'll say, well, what would you do if this happened? And they're like, well, I never thought of it that way.
Mm,
And so go through your operation and then safe proof, right? Safe proof your business to make sure that you won't have a enterprise ending situation. And I'd also, alongside the what ifs, I would also encourage people, and it's in the book, not to get what I call a case of the yets, right? Which is, it hasn't happened to me yet, so it's not gonna happen, right? Well, the yet happens every day. I mean, I see it, I read about
mhm.
it. It's in automotive news. It's on the TV sometimes. It happens. The yet happens.
Yeah.
So I think those are the two key points.
Yeah. You hear that all the time, right? Somebody goes, wow, I never seen that before.
Right.
That's the yet that just happened to them.
It just happened. Exactly right.
Yeah. Um, segment two is called "Focus on Customer Complaints." As I read through the book, um, those two chapters that you had in there about customer complaints really jumped out to me. Obviously, after years in fixed operations, there was plenty of time to deal with customer complaints. Um, and you emphasize the importance of listening to a customer's story first. And I think that gets overlooked a lot. But can you explain why is that crucial, and how does that set the tone for resolving a dispute?
Yeah, great question. So I'm gonna first mention that most dealership problems, and I'm gonna say 70% of dealership problems come on two legs, right? Customer problems and employee related problems.
Hmm.
The other ones are unintentional advertising violations. Okay. And I know I talk about that in the book too.
Yeah.
So if you handle your customer problem, in my opinion, you handle your customer problems, you handle your employee problems, and you handle your advertising problems, you're going to knock out 80% of the problems that you may have, because that's where they all start. If you read any of the regulatory notices when dealers are getting fined, they always start with customer problems. And the
Yeah.
customers are not satisfied. And so the customers go to the Federal Trade Commission, to the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, or the Attorney General, or wherever, Motor Vehicle Dealer Board. There's a gazillion different regulators, and that's what they do. And so if you're satisfying your customers, you're going to avoid most of those problems. Now, to answer your question specifically, all too often, and I made this mistake, so I'll just tell on myself first, right? So I had a very early on in my career, I was given a problem. I took it on, and I said, "All right, this is easy. This is easy. I'm just gonna take care of this, right?" So the customer comes in, walks in my office, shake his hand, sit him down, and I say, "I understand that this, and this. Is that correct?" And he said, "Yeah, because I was trying to be time efficient, right? I was trying to get on to my next thing.
Yep.
And I understand this and this. Is that right?" I said, "Well, then here's the solution to your problem." And he's like, "No."
No.
I'm like, "Well, what do you mean no? Like, no doesn't work. What do you mean no? This is what your problem is. This is what you said to George in the back, and this is what, and so this is the answer. No, that's not it." And I realized right then and there, these problems aren't going to get taken care of in 5 minutes. So I may as well
Hmm.
slow myself down. And so as a result of that, I went the exact opposite way. And so when the customer walks in, I show them a legal pad and say, look, I have a clean legal pad. I want you to tell me everything that happened. I'm sorry you have to go through it again, because by that time they've usually told 2 or 3 people, right?
Yep.
They told, and nobody's fixed it. So I said, I know you've told a lot of people your story, and I'm sorry you have to do it again. I want to make sure I'm being thorough, and I want to make sure that I hear all of your concerns so I can address everything.
Hmm.
And I would then proceed to write down like between 15 and 25 different pages of just what they said. Doesn't matter if it's right or wrong.
Yep.
And I would tell the customer ahead of time, I said, I apologize in advance if I'm interrupting. I want to ask questions as I go to make sure I don't miss anything. Then at the end, I would go back and I'd read all 25 pages of notes back to them. And I'd say, tell me if I'm missing anything. And they'd say, you forgot the this or you forgot the that. And so I'd write that on the 26th page
Hmm.
and say, is there anything else? Because I want to make sure I want to make sure I understand everything going on. And then I'd say, okay, so now what I need to do is you've given me some homework. I need to go back and check with all the people here, see what happened. And then next meeting, when we meet, and I may have questions. We may have to go to a third meeting. I'm not sure. But when we meet, I may have some solutions for you. And we'll have to see what my research indicates. But we may have to go to 3 meetings, but we may be able to resolve it in 2. And they'd say, because at that point they felt heard, right? I had
Yeah.
read back 25 pages of notes, and sometimes that takes 20 minutes to a half an hour, because it takes them 20 minutes to a half an hour to tell you what their initial problem was, right? So these are long meetings. These are not easy. And by listening, the customer feels heard, they feel valued, they know that what I was saying, that I was listening, that I was paying attention,
Yeah.
right? I wasn't playing on my phone or responding to emails or all that kind of thing. And
Yep.
so they would give us the grace of allowing us to have a second meeting and to then move forward that way.
Yeah. It's a terrific lesson, and a big piece of conflict resolution that gets missed simply because of the name conflict resolution, and
Right.
everybody's trying to jump to the resolution part of it.
That's
Right.
right. I made the mistake too, but
Me too.
then I changed.
Yeah, I made that mistake plenty of times, and then I saw he was a general manager, but there was a customer that had an issue, and I saw him talk to the customer that way and
Hmm.
say almost word for word what you just said. Like, I apologize. I know you've been through your story a bunch of times, but I want to understand what's going on so that we can come to a good resolution to the problem. So
That's right.
please tell me what's going on, and let's figure out how I can help you.
That's right.
Yeah. And that was it was eye-opening for me to see that and to instantly see the customer from this to, oh, okay. He's not here to fight with me. He's here to try and help me. This segment is brought to you by Automotive Warranty Network Incorporated, family owned and operated claims management service based out of Denver, Colorado. They currently process more than 100 million in warranty per month.
Everyone wants to be heard, right?
Yep.
Whenever you have a conflict, the other person wants to be heard.
Yes.
And they want you to identify how they're feeling, right? So it's disarming. So if somebody's yelling and pounding and they're pounding their fist, and you say, listen, I understand. I know you're angry. I know you're upset. I want to help you. I want to
Mhm.
try to satisfy your concerns. Standing up, screaming, pointing at me, the whole thing. I had it all. So identifying their feelings is also very disarming, right? If
Yep.
I say things like, if I were you, I'd be frustrated too, but I'm really trying to help you here. And
Mhm.
so if you don't mind having a seat, please, let's try to get through this.
Yeah. And that was one of the things that one of the concepts that you mentioned was labeling, right? Or labeling a customer's feelings. Um and how does that technique work in de-escalating a situation and building trust with a customer?
Yeah, it's just like anybody who has teenagers, right? When the teenagers are angry or yelling or screaming, seems like you're upset. Why don't you come on over and talk, right? It's the same thing. When somebody identifies how we're feeling, all of a sudden, again, we're feeling heard at a different level, right? At a deeper level. And so identifying those feelings is important part of as a kind of a healing process, if you will, because a customer complaint has to get healed some way, or they will simply spin and they'll go to a lawyer, go to the attorney general, or whatever other way they think that they can get their problem handled. And
Hmm.
so, and if you label it wrong, they'll correct you. I promise you, right? I'm not angry. Okay, I understand. I'm sorry if I was wrong. How are you feeling? Well, I'm just frustrated. Got it. You're frustrated, right? Well, let's work on that, right? Tell me what happened, and let's work on not having you be frustrated.
That's so funny. And it's so true, right?
Right?
The emotion that you're seeing in front of you is so obvious, and you label it, and they tell you that you're completely off base on it.
But then that allows you to ask the question, right? Well,
Yes.
how are you feeling about this? You seem
Hmm.
upset to me.
Yeah.
I am not upset. I understand. Okay.
What are you?
Keep going with your story,
Yeah.
right? And eventually you get it all out.
Yeah. Excellent. Excellent. Can you walk us through the 3-step model that you put in the book for
Yeah.
managing customer disputes?
Yeah, I mean, I do a seminar on this that's 45 minutes, so I'll do this in 3 minutes for you, Dave. But
Let me get a
uh,
coffee.
yeah, so the first is what we just described, right? That has to be the first meeting. The second meeting is an effort to clarify if there's any factual information, because you have to get down to the facts. If you
Hmm.
can't agree on the facts, then you'll never get to a resolution. So that may require bringing in other people. It may require, like, I'm not a mechanic. So whenever there was a mechanical issue, I'd sometimes have to bring somebody in to help me, use the information in such a way that we could explain what the problem was, which was usually was a communication problem, and what they thought was the problem wasn't really the problem. It was a different problem. So but you have to get down to the facts, and until you can get to the facts, you really can't build to a resolution. And so the second meeting could be clarifying a lot of what they were saying. Usually, customers think the stories start like this, but they usually are not that way, and by the time you find out what the facts are, they usually are like this, right? You can
Right.
piece what they said and what you got, and everybody can agree on this.
Hmm.
And then from there, the short version is number three is offering solutions, and I advocate very much that you offer 100% of the time, offer two solutions. If you want to offer three, offer three. But how does a customer feel if you just say, here's your solution? How do they feel?
Not good.
Not good, right? Because you're shoving something down their throat.
Right.
That's how they
Yep.
feel. They're
Hmm.
just they feel like it's getting. So you offer two different options, and there can be economic inequities in those two options, right? For example, and the example I like to use is you could offer them a service credit for $1,000, of which you and I both know that only costs the dealership $500, right?
Hmm.
So you offer them a service credit of 1,000, or maybe you may offer to make their two payments of $450 for 900, right? So
Right.
you give them $1,000 option, you give them a $900 option, you let them choose. It doesn't
Yep.
matter that there are inequities in those numbers,
Right.
right? And so, and sometimes even though the two payments will have nothing to do with what the problem is, they may take the two payments. I use that as an example, right? They may not take the obvious solution, but
Hmm.
I think it's important to give them two options to empower them to do what's right for them.
Yeah, and that's part of it, right? Is just making them feel part of the process and feeling like they have a choice in that solution, right?
Correct.
Maybe the one solution you would have given them was really the best solution for them, but because you only offered one, they're going to push back on that.
That's right. And be prepared, by the way. This happened a lot. If you say A or B, they're going to say, I want half a A and half a
And like,
B. Right. And
yeah,
so you have to be ready to be able to maneuver that way, because they don't always take A or B. Occasionally they'll take C.
It's funny dealing with dealing w- with 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 people's emotions, right?
Right.
It's
That's
really
right.
all it comes down to, because
That's right.
it
And after you make that deal with them, absolutely walk across and shake their hand and say,
yeah.
let me go work on this, because I had many instances where like I had to cut a check to give them a check or
Yeah.
something. By the time they signed a release, which I also advocate, right, the release of all claims, once I give you this, then this problem's over.
Hmm.
And you have to decide what the threshold is for the amount of money that you want to do that.
Sure.
but 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 by the time there were many instances, by the time I walked to get the check and come back, they had changed their mind, right, and they decided they don't want to do it. And to which then the only I just no, wait a minute, I just shook your hand, we just agreed on this as ladies and
Yeah.
gentlemen, right? And so I'm confused, and then you have to basically go in and try to make it work.
Yeah, we just hope it's not that far to walk for the solution, so there's not enough time to make that change of mind.
Have the check printer in your office.
That's that's it. So Tom, segment 3 is about legacy. And so you've done a lot of things in this industry. Your family has done a lot of things in this industry, and now this book helps to carry that on and take it further. Uh, what do you hope people are going to gain after reading the book?
I hope they can take, I think there's 53 chapters. There's a lot of actionable items in there.
Hmm.
And I hope they will take those actionable items and start at their dealership and say, "Hey, we got some work to do," and that may mean allocation of resources or allocation of personnel. Um, I see a lot of dealership groups that might have one central person who is in charge of compliance, but then they have 27 stores and nobody's doing compliance at the stores. To which
Yeah.
I can tell you, if nobody is doing compliance at the stores, there's no compliance program, right?
Right.
One person cannot manage compliance for 27 stores, or even three stores for that matter. But
Hmm.
and so I'm hoping they'll rethink how they are transacting, what they're doing, how they're buying their insurance, whether they understand what they're buying. Dealers go through a terrible process when they buy their insurance, because a lot of them don't understand. And there's recent surveys show that 62% of people who buy insurance acknowledge they don't understand what's in their insurance policy, right?
Yeah.
So they're spending hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars a year on insurance, and they're not sure what it's for. So, going in and educating yourself, or having your insurance agent educate you, I hope all these things become actionable items, and that they can put these things into practice immediately, just by kind of following the book.
Yeah, I love that. And the your insurance policy point is spot on. I mean, just look at what your car insurance policy has in it, and you don't understand all of that. And now think of what's in an insurance policy to cover a dealership.
That's right.
Uh,
And oftentimes the important part about that, Dave, is that oftentimes there is coverage in your insurance policy for a very complicated problem you're working on, but you don't know that the insurance policy would cover it. And so you're in there grinding away trying to figure out how to solve the problem. And if you just send it to your insurance company, they pay the claim.
mm,
And that
yeah,
I see that all the time.
yeah. I bet that's a big number of money that's wasted
Yeah, it
or
is.
not claimed.
Yeah, and it just makes the dealer's life more difficult and complicated, right? Because they're trying to figure out how to solve the problem when they can leverage their insurance to get a solution.
Hmm. Yeah, great point. So, Tom, what was your favorite part about writing this book?
When I hit submit,
When it was over.
it's done for sure. No, I mean that is partially true. I really, at the beginning of each of the chapters, you'll see something that I reached out to various industry friends and asked them kind of how they live their life and what their personal ethos is.
Hmm.
And at the beginning of each one of the chapters, you'll see a quote from some of our industry friends and partners. And that was probably the most fun is listening to those and understanding how people think and why they think the way they do. I really enjoyed that part of it.
Yeah, it was. I'll be honest. When I realized at chapter 2 that there was one of those at the beginning of every chapter, I flipped through to to get to each of those first, so I could just read those. Uh,
Right.
that was an enjoyable part for me. Um, what's next for Tom and Tuck?
Well, so Tuck has to spread his wings and go forth and get into dealerships. So that's what's next for Tuck, and I hope I'm there with Tuck to help the dealers, solving their risk and compliance issues. So I just got back from a three week trip where I was only home for 36 hours,
Man,
doing a lot of that. So I'm out and about a lot.
that's a lot of travel.
Yeah,
I want to really thank you for coming here and talking about the book. Um, I from the bottom of my heart, thank you for including me in the acknowledgments. That was a big surprise when I opened the book up and saw that.
absolutely.
Um, I am grateful to be part of your life and one little tentacle on one of Tuck's arms somewhere.
Yeah, I appreciate that it's one tentacle. By the
So
way, you and Tuck have similar camouflage. I don't know if you noticed,
yeah,
right?
yeah. That's what I do. I blend into my background. But Tom, thank you for spending some time with us. It's great hearing more about the book and where it came from and your history in the business. Um, it's a it's a great business, but it's a personal business, right? It's all just people, and it's great to learn more about them.
Yep, 100%. Thanks for having me, Dave. I appreciate it.